Hundreds of thousands of people have been taking part in rallies around the world, calling for decisive action to combat climate change. It comes as world leaders prepare to meet in Paris for a major UN climate change summit due to get underway tomorrow. There were clashes in the French capital as people protested at the country's state of emergency, preventing large gatherings. Well, our environment correspondent George Lee is in Paris.
What do you do when terrorism means you're banned from taking to the streets? Well, in Paris, they did this. 10,000 people took to the footpaths instead. They held hands and they formed a human chain that snaked for 3 kilometres throughout the city. They also did this. 11,000 pairs of shoes were laid out, the marching shoes, at the Place de la République at the heart of the city. We are here, they chant. And the message is clear. Global leaders better not forget that people are prepared to march to tackle climate change.
That no matter what country we're from, no matter what state, no matter what our leaders are or aren't doing effectively, we have to show that we're demanding solutions, and there's no better way to do it than showing up.
Among the shoes were a pair from Pope Francis, these runners from the UN General Secretary Ban Ki-moon, and these from French actress Marion Cotillard, and so many more.
If we defend the Earth, we will defend humanity. Humanity is at risk. It's a state of emergency.
With 120 world leaders attending tomorrow, security was always going to be tight, but it's even tighter now. Border controls have intensified. 120,000 police and gendarmes are mobilised, 2,800 carrying out security checks around the COP21 venue alone. And some major roads in Paris will be closed off for the next 2 days. There were scuffles when firecrackers and flares from these demonstrators caused riot police to react. Around the world, at more peaceful demonstrations, the message was the same.
Our kids and our grandkids are going to be feeling the effects of it for many years to come, and I think we're the last generation that have any voice to be able to do anything, and it's incredibly important that we take action now.
Tomorrow, Taoiseach Enda Kenny will have 3 minutes to tell the world what we are going to do for what's dubbed the last best chance to save the planet.
Well, just before coming on air, I spoke to George and asked him whether reaching a deal will be difficult.
Yes, Kate, and you can be sure it's going to be hard. They're going to be here for a very long period of time, 2 weeks solid here at Le Bourget trying to iron this out. But the French government has gone about this in a very professional and organised way. All the countries participating have had to do their homework. There have been big meetings in places like Bonn, in places like Lima, in Peru, and countries have had to already give commitments with regard to reducing carbon emissions. Problem is those commitments aren't enough to keep global warming below 2%. The trick is to ratchet up those commitments in whatever agreement is ironed out here. Now, there'll be arguments about who pays, there'll be arguments about who gets a free pass, there'll be arguments about whether or not it's legally binding or it's not, or who monitors it, and so on. But there's one thing they all know, and that is that they cannot afford to fail on this occasion. There are just too many people in the world who will not accept that.
George Lee speaking to us a little earlier from Paris. Well, here, thousands of people took part in climate change marches in Dublin, Cork, Belfast and Galway. The rallies, which were organised by a coalition of environmental groups, called on the Taoiseach to show leadership when he addresses the opening stages of the UN Climate Conference in Paris tomorrow.
A call for action on climate change. Today, thousands took to the streets of the capital to have their voices heard ahead of the Paris talks.
We need Ireland to say we'll do our fair share to reduce our own emissions, which we aren't doing at the moment. We're the 8th most polluting country per person in the rich world.
The Taoiseach is due to address the opening stages of the talks in Paris tomorrow. The crowds that have gathered here are calling on him to show leadership on the issue. Why are you taking part today?
Oh, because I'm all for it. It's, you know, I think we're in a very dangerous time, living in dangerous times at the moment.
Yeah, we want to show that people are very concerned by this question, and that's why we want real decision for the climate.
I think climate change is a generational issue, and we can't just think about ourselves and the current times. We have to think about the future too.
We have wonderful natural resources around us. We have to use them in the best ability we have so that we can be, the most sustainable future for all of us.
The government is not doing it. It's not representing us by being a leader on climate. It's been a laggard. And that's not right, because this is a better future. When we get rid of the fossil fuels, we're a more secure economy, we're a fairer country.
Hundreds also gathered in Galway to call for action on the issue.
Our generation is the first generation to fully understand the problem of climate change, but we are the last generation to have the time and the opportunity to do something about it. We're running out of time. There is no planet B.
Whether Ireland and other nations are paying attention to the pleas of the public will become apparent in the coming days. Samantha Library, RTE News.
In other news, about 3,000 customers remain without power due to